What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today I want to talk about Abraxas. Yes, Abraxas. You've probably heard this name before somewhere. It's just banging around somewhere in your subconscious for some reason. And it sounds like the evil villain of some fantasy novel, maybe some archdemon or something. And maybe have some vague connection to Gnosticism, again, for some reason. All right, so today what I'm going to do is explain why all of that stuff is misconception and generated by, I suppose, just kind of like hearsay, started by Bishop Irenaeus, who was the famous sort of original deliverer of the Gnostic systems before we actually found the primary resource texts, right? So today I'm going to show you what Abraxas actually is according to the Gnostics themselves. Number two, we're going to talk about the fact that the name is actually wrong. It's Abrasax. Abrasax. Abraxas was actually a misspelling either by Irenaeus himself in the Greek or by later translators. Okay, so somebody got a little dyslexic with it and switched the two letters, okay? Number three, I'm going to read to you a little bit from the book called The Holy Book of the Great Invisible Spirit, okay? Or also known as Gospel of the Egyptians. The Revelation of Adam, and we'll talk about Zostrianos as well. These are all books from the Nag Hammadi scriptures, Nag Hammadi library, many of which are Gnostic texts. Okay? So first of all, it's Abrasax. Okay? Now, why is that important? What does it mean? So Abrasax, if we go to the notes of Marvin Meyer in his translation of the Holy Book of the Great Invisible Spirit, we see Abrasax, here and below, is the name of a cosmic power in several traditions, including Gnostic traditions. The numerical value of the name Abrasax in Greek is 365, and thus it corresponds to the number of days in the solar year. All right, so first of all, two things. So number one, yes, the Greeks did gematria as well, which is the art of essentially assigning a numerical value to a word. It's something that the mystical Hebrews did as well with the Hebrew language. So the Greeks had that as well. For example, the name Jesus actually adds up to 888. The wealth number, the wealth angel number in modern times. Okay, so this is significant for understanding its core meaning, all right? And for the record, it is a good being. It's a good thing in general. Now, what is the origin of Abrasax? So, in the Holy Book of the Egyptians, now, there's something called the four great luminaries, okay? And these are high-level angelic beings. And I'm not quite sure where to begin. So the four luminaries, these come into being through revelation, prophania. Through revelation, through a being known as Adamus, as well as the self-generated word. Okay? So Adamus is the first human being, but in a spiritual way, in the sense of light that radiates from the light, okay? So the first human being, our true form, so to speak, is the light that comes from the greater light, okay? So this Adamus joins with the self-generated word, the Logos, and they become together the human power of the word. So humanity comes forth from the word. It's kind of how the text explains it. All right, so this Adamus, he prays to Revelation, which is a female principle in this system, and she begets these four luminaries, these four great angelic beings, which are named Harmozel, Oroyael, quite a mouthful, Devethe, and Deleleth. Okay, you see these names all throughout the Gnostic texts. I'm not quite sure what their origin is, what their etymology is about, but clearly they loved them. Okay, so the four great luminaries, but she also begets Seth, the son of Adam in the Bible. But again, this is not normal Seth. It's the spiritualized, sort of symbolic Seth. Okay, the incorruptible human Seth, son of Adamus. All right, so there's a set of 7 there that's going on that they point out to us in this book. All right, so now you know what the luminaries are. Next important thing is that the luminaries are given consorts. So there's male and female. Because the Gnostic traditions, they value the feminine when discussing the higher cosmological principles. They know that you can't just ignore that and be like, no, everything's masculine. The father, the man, he's the best. He didn't want to eat the apple, guys. He wasn't the one tricked by the serpent, so we'll just make everything man-based. Right? And when you look back at literature, I'm pretty sure like that is why, in part, we don't see anything about like Mother God type principles in the New Testament. Anyway, so they respect and value the feminine in this tradition. So the four luminaries, they're given 4 consorts: grace, perception, intelligence, and understanding. All right, so again, you can clearly see that we're talking about first principles here. We're not really talking about like humanoid sort of gods and goddesses, right? So that group of 8 is created from the divine self-generated, the autogenes, as it's called. Now, the attendants, so to speak, are produced after this, and Abraxas is one of them. Okay, so we have the great Gamaliel for the first great luminary, Harmozel. And notice how great is put in front of all of them, kind of signifying their class, their status as a being. So then Gabriel's next. Samblo is the third for the luminary Devethe. And last is the great Abrasax for the great luminary Aleleth. Okay, and I'm going to explain, you're going to see, actually I'll just tell you right now. So the significance of this name adding up to 365. Now this is mentioned by Irenaeus as well as Hippolytus, the heresiologists. They mention that where they find this name, Abrasax, or as Irenaeus had written, Abraxas, is from a group of books known as Exegetica by a man called Basilides, who was a Gnostic proponent. And basically he wrote commentary on the canonical Gospels, which were around by then, apparently. And, you know, in like a known type fashion. So he created this commentary on them, and he mentioned this power called Abrasax. It corresponds to the 365 heavens. There's all this stuff, right? So for me, what I think of, if Abrasax is known as like the supreme principle, or it's like one name for like the greatest principle, what that tells me is it's a name for God. It's a name for God in his aspect as encompassing all of time. God is the timeless, it's the eternal, right? So if Abrasax is representing the 365 days of the solar year, that's kind of showing you like God is every day. He's all of the days. He's all of time. It's It's so all of time that it's now. It's always now, right? And what a beautiful way to encapsulate God. So simply, in just little numerical magic type name. Okay? So that's important for what I'm about to read next. So Abraxas is one of the attendants of the luminaries, right? He's the attendant of Aleleth. Now the attendants also get partners. I think I said consorts before. This book calls them partners. But so these partners, these attendants, all this stuff appears through the will of the Father, by the way. Just in case anyone's like, oh, what does this mean? So the self-generated, this is one word for it, but the Father, they use that word, the Father, in this too. So these partners appear as well for the attendants. Memory for Gamaliel, love for Gabriel, peace for Samblo, and life eternal for Abrasax. So in case you had doubt about like the whole, this being a name for God and his timeless aspect, what we see there is that there actually is some kind of sensibility assigned to these partners. Because in this case, life eternal, which is Zoen Ionen, I believe, in Greek. Either way, life eternal, well, what does that correspond to? It corresponds to time, eternity. Well, if Abraxas is God and his timeless eternal principle, it only makes too much sense that eternal life that corresponds to that length of time, is assigned as the partner to Abraxas, right? And again, life eternal, that is one of Jesus's founding tenets, one of his founding sort of things that he advocates. He wants us to achieve life everlasting, life eternal, with the Father in heaven. All right, so what I'm showing you here is that it's not some weird demon thing. It's not an arch villain. We just hear the name through the grapevine, and then all of a sudden these things become, misunderstandings by bishops in ancient times who are afraid of things they don't understand. Right? And that's kind of like what I'm trying to undo here, is misconceptions generated through the centuries about something that was supposed to be good. Okay, it's just different, guys. All right, now to buff that out, this idea that Abraxas is actually a good thing, I'm going to bring you to the revelation of Adam. This is a text in Codex 5 of the Nag Hammadi library. By the way, the Gospel of the Egyptians that's in Codexes 3 and 4. There was 2 copies of them. Okay, so the revelation of Adam, so there's like a chosen group of people, right? Like the generation of Seth, they call it, or the eklektoi, as they say in the New Testament, I believe. Like the people of God, basically. So there's, this original sort of, elite group of people, let's say, or beings or souls. And it talks about the cycles of existence, how there will come a time when, life is great, right? Like it's a kind of like an Eden sort of vibe, but then darkness descends and covers up the eyes of the angels, of everybody. Earth is kind of in bad shape. Now, it says in those times, the dark times, great clouds will descend from the eternal realms. And Abraxas, Gamaliel, and Samblo, for some reason not Gabriel, but these 3 will descend and essentially rescue this people, this group of people. I don't know if it means all people or specifically like the children of light, let's say. it'll rescue them. It'll bring them above all the eons, all the realms, the domains of the powers. And it says, the people will become like those angels, for they are not foreign to them. Okay, referring to the holy angels in the eternal realms. And that's actually a really significant line, because what it shows you, it's a little bit of a nod to the fact that our original nature is as of the angels, eternal beings of light. Okay. Okay, and last, I'm going to show you this. Zostrianos, a text, really long text in Codex number 8. But we find Abraxas there as well. And he is listed as one of the guardians of the immortal soul. So, again, does that sound like a bad thing to you? All right, so there's a long list of these guardians. Again, he's listed as an attendant, which is properly what we find in the Gospel of the Egyptians. Okay, so that's all I have for you in the Nag Hammadi library, but quickly, I want to show you this beautiful treasure, the Greek Magical Papyri. We're not going to really talk about what that is. Oh, and demotic spells. Yes, including the demotic spells. That's demotic, not demonic. Demotic is a phase of the Egyptian language, specifically with regard to like the writing system they used. Okay, so this was pre-Coptic writing system, I believe. So anyway, Abraxas was used for magical amulets, I hear. The name was put like engraved on like amulets to carry around for protection, for spiritual development, whatever. Now, when you look in here, do we find Abraxas? No, we don't. We find Abraxas. Because again, it's Greek Magical Papyri. It's written in Greek. So, you know, when I search through this and I reference the back where it's like, hey, here's where you find Abraxas. Go to section 4, papyrus number 4, 8, 13. You'll find it there. And everywhere I look, it is written as, you guessed it, Abraxas. Okay? And even one that wasn't listed I found in papyrus number 11, Abraxas. Okay, just to show like, hey, this was indeed, yes, a spelling error of either Irenaeus himself or the Latin translators. Who's to say? But again, that's not to say that we don't find Abraxas anywhere in here. Like maybe like somebody misspelled it, because they do mess around with the names sometimes, because they're like written for magical purposes. So I do think they do like switch things around. So I'm sure you could find an Abraxas in here somewhere, but again, that's not like the norm. Clearly, that's not the norm. And what I have open here, Papyrus 13, ironically talks about the names of the 365 gods. So the number 365, so popular. All right. So with that, I'm going to close out here, guys. But again, I hope that inspires you to be interested in the Gnostic texts, maybe even the magical papyri. And again, my purpose was to correct a sphere of ignorance around this vague name that I feel like people have heard before and don't know what it is. An uncorrected error that has persisted through the centuries that comes from judgment, let's say, or lack of desiring to understand. And, you know, I guess props to Irenaeus, like he's defending what he believes to be the correct way of things. But again, it's good to reference the direct sources for ourselves to then evaluate in an unbiased fashion, not defending some kind of system, just looking at it objectively, we see this is a divine being that we're talking about. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this, ladies and gentlemen, this little mini lecture thing on Abrasax and Gnosticism and magic. All right. Take care, guys. Peace out.